I saw you handling a bunch. I figured you had one.
Oh.
Oh, we should.
So this is Christmas. What have you done? Another year over, a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas. I hope you have fun. the near and the dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. So this is Christmas, for weak and for strong, the rich and the poor ones. The road is so long, and so happy Christmas for black and for white, for the yellow and red ones. Let's stop all the fight. Merry, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. So this is Christmas. War is over. What have we done? Another year over. Is over. The new one just begun. So happy Christmas. We hope you have fun. The near and the dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. War is over if you want it. War is over now. War is over if you want it. War is over now. War is over if you want it. War is over now.
Good morning. The legendary Archbishop Desmond Tutu loved to tell a story about humility. He said there was a gathering of bishops in all of their finery, their robes, their stoles, all their symbols of power. And one of the bishops stood before the altar in his congregation, this gathering of people of religious power, and said, "O Lord, have mercy on me, I am nothing." And another bishop got up and stood next to the first bishop in all of his robes and finery and stoles and accoutrement of power, and said, "Lord, have mercy on me, I am nothing." And then a small boy, an acolyte, in threadbare robes, following the example of these great religious leaders, walked to the front and stood next to these two bishops and said, "Lord, have mercy on me, I am nothing." And the first bishop turned to the second bishop and said, "Look who thinks he's nothing." Preachers should listen to their own sermons, because Archbishop Tutu, in conversation with the Dalai Lama, found himself learning about his own humility. They were gathered in dialogue with each other, these two global religious leaders, men of such influence and wisdom. And the Dalai Lama turned to Archbishop Desmond Tutu and said, Archbishop Tutu, as I watch your work in the world and all the things that you've done, the fight against oppression, the fight for justice, the fight for freedom in your country, a thought occurs to me. Archbishop, I believe that you are a person of great potential. And the Archbishop, before he could catch himself, looked with disgust at the Dalai Lama and said, "What?" "Yes," said the Dalai Lama, "a person of great potential for the happiness of humanity." Oh, said the Archbishop, and relaxed into his nothingness and his greatness, like the great man across the room from him, and like every one of us. Friends, we are as much nothing and everything as every other being in our cosmos, full of potential for the happiness of all existence. Welcome to a place of potential.
Technical difficulties. You could use the same mic.
Oh, I could have used the podium mic right here. That was a whole lot easier. How about that? So if you didn't notice, sometimes we have Wi-Fi connection issues that throw off our broadcasting. The sound podium, or the sound devices, just simultaneously dropped, which is why our live audience, unfortunately, did not hear our wonderful choir performance just now.
No, it's on.
Oh, wait, no, it's on now? The
Yeah.
podium's on now?
No, they
Just
can
this
hear
one?
everything that was going.
Oh,
we just
okay.
can't turn the podium on.
Okay. Well, folks, that dropped out just before I was allowed to grab a mic, which I think was a cosmic sign of something else. If you would allow me just one moment and then on top of it, I'm just going through all kinds of technical issues today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Jenkins, and I serve as president of the Board of Trustees of your United Unitarian Church of Spartanburg. Welcome members, friends, and visitors this morning, whether you are in the sanctuary or joining us virtually and can't see me right now because I'm not at the podium. We are a welcoming congregation, and whether you are in the room or online, you are loved. And now for a few important announcements. You can find these and more on the sheet titled Connect at the back of your bulletin. Welcome visitors. If you're visiting with us this morning, we would love to meet you and share more about the life of this congregation. Visitor cards may be found in the pocket on the back of the chair in front of you. Please feel welcome to fill one of these out and place it in the offering plate during the service so that we can connect with you. And if you want to talk to a person, I'm Alan again, and I'll be at the booth in the back. Feel free to stop by and say hey. The December Board of Trustees meeting has been rescheduled to Wednesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. on Zoom in order not to conflict with our annual winter solstice celebration on Wednesday, December 21st, which we wholeheartedly hope that you attend. It's always an amazing service. We will celebrate Teddy Bear Sunday on December 11th at our 11 a.m. Sunday morning service. Bring a new or clean, gently used teddy bear or other stuffed animal for our annual Intergenerational Teddy Bear Sunday. Our holiday menagerie will be given to Project REST in the City of Spartanburg Public Safety for Children separated from their families. Share warmth, share love, share a bear. Our UUCS is a place of warmth, kindness, and welcome, and that is because of each and every one of you. Every time we come together, we make this world a better place. It brings me great comfort and joy to be with you here. Thank you. And a quick round of applause for our sound people.
Right here, but. Need your notes, all right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Riley Lanier. I'm been a member of this church since the beginning of time, or 1990, whichever came first. Kara Dowling will light our chalice this morning. And our reading is We Are Fragile Creatures from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who's one of my heroes who, out of his nothingness, did wonders for stifling systemic racism. We are fragile creatures, and it is from this weakness, not despite of it, that we discover the possibility of true joy. Life is filled with challenges and adversity. Fear is inevitable, as is pain and eventually death.
Please join us. Stand as you're willing and able on carol number 235, Deck the Halls. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, la 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 la. Hail the new ye lads and lasses, la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, la 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 la.
The sacred bowl of water represents the fullness of our congregation. You are invited to come up to place a stone and/or a shell into the bowl. Stones symbolize our concerns, which are lessened, and shells our joys, which are increased as the ripples go out and are collectively absorbed by our church community.
enter soft and still. Your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will. Ease my mind profoundly. And then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me. And then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Gentle darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
It looks like it's.
The world is at peace. I can use this mic again. Can everyone hear me? Unitarian Universalist congregations do not recite creeds or statements of belief, but this church has written its own covenant developed through the democratic process. And today Scott's going to talk about who we are. This covenant states how we want to be with ourselves, one another, and the community. I ask you to read it with me now. It's in the bulletin. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. It has been a long-standing tradition in this congregation to have a brief time to mingle and greet one another, being mindful of one another's boundaries related to personal space. Some of us have referred to this period as holy chaos, and it often fits. You can also just sit and wave to each other if you wish. If you're joining us virtually, you can use this time to text a friend or send positive energy out to others. When the music starts playing, it's time to return quickly and quietly to your seats to prepare for the rest of the service. Now let this period of holy chaos begin.
Disconnected 2 more times, but at least it reconnected.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you stayed connected?
I'm staying connected, yeah.
Okay, that's good. It disconnected and it lasted for about half a minute.
You know, it just makes sense that when we start the service talking about humility and fragility, that everything should hit the fan. It's wonderful how our services are symbols and metaphors for the reality of life. And with deadly serious laughter, wonderful to see us respond by laughing and teams pulling together and everybody just taking a deep breath so that whatever needs to reconnect can reconnect. So why don't we give a standing ovation to our AV team and to all of us for our patience and our hard work. You know, I look at all of us and I think all of our lives are totally screwed up. It's great to be in a place where we see how to work with that. It's just inevitable and full of potential. Leading up to this month, our Social Justice Council struggled very hard to figure out who we should dedicate our Share the Plate to this year. There were many competing ideas and lots of back and forth for several weeks and over a series of positive and intense meetings. This month, we will share the plate in support of a refugee family that has not yet arrived in our community. This is born out of concern from many directions that war is not over and that families still flee areas of the world that are torn by violence, and that economic hardship and change from changing ecosystems and climates leads to mass migration and pressure on all of our societies. We don't know where the family that we will support this month comes from. We can't choose that. It's not our job. But we are preparing a place for those who will be an intimate part of our community and who have not yet arrived. And it's fitting because this month we are telling stories from the lives of two people who lived in exile and as refugees for the majority of their lives. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who had to flee his native South Africa in order to prosecute the fight against apartheid, and returned to his native country at great peril to himself and his family. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who still lives as a refugee in exile from the kingdom that he is meant to rule, Tibet. So we are immersed this month in stories of refugees. At the back of the sanctuary, you will see one of a whole community of Christmas trees. And on that Christmas tree, there are tags. You can take a tag, and you'll find on it something to purchase for this family. Sheets, towels, utensils, kitchen implements. One item to join other items to outfit an apartment. You can find further directions in the Connect and in happenings in the Unison about how we will fulfill that project this month. Please take part. And in our offering, we will share the plate on behalf of this family that we have not yet met. Half of all undesignated gifts and all designated gifts will go to support this family. We're working again this year in league with Lutheran Immigrant and Refugee Service, a very highly regarded national service with a very strong division in South Carolina. So much so that other refugee agencies in our region recommend that we work with Lutheran Immigrant Refugee Services. They point to this group as a worthy and reliable partner. I want to invite Amberly Chirola, who is the Director of Resettlement for Lutheran Immigrant Refugee Service, to speak with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity, and good morning. I've enjoyed being with you today. So it's funny that we're talking about Dalai Lama in Tibet, because a lot of times when people say, what does a refugee need? Who are refugees and what do they need? I use this analogy. So I want everybody to go through this little thought process with me for a minute. Let's say in some twist of something we can't imagine, Canada decides to invade the United States. Now, my husband's Canadian, so I know that's not possible, but let's imagine. And so you see that they're going through, New York, and they come closer and closer, and you think there's no way they can make it to South Carolina, but all of a sudden one day somebody calls you, and they say, oh my gosh, they're almost here. And let's say it's your family or your boss or whatever. You need to get your stuff and just get your family, and we'll tell you when and where to meet us, and we're going to head out, and we'll take you somewhere safe. And so you do that. You get your backpack, you wait, and you end up getting on an airplane, and going to Mozambique, where you're in Mozambique for a little while, and then all of a sudden they put you on another airplane and they send you to Tibet. It's the example I always use is Tibet. Okay, so imagine, what is it that you're going to need when you get to Tibet? You've lost everything. You might have some of your family with you, but you have others that were left in South Carolina, and you have a backpack and a suitcase, and that's it. So what would you need? You need a place to stay, good. A car, maybe, to get places or transportation. You need furniture, good. What else? Toilet paper. Thank you. That's right. Warm clothes. That is true, because it was summer. Remember when you left in the summer, and now it's not. It's cold in Tibet, right? What else? Food, community. Yeah. You guys think about all these things. So this is everything that you're going to need. Not only things, but you're also going to need somebody to kind of show you how to drive a car or ride the bus in Tibet. You're going to need somebody to show you how to go to the grocery store. You don't speak the language, and so maybe somebody to help you learn the language, somebody to help you find a job, because you realize this is a long-term process, right? And so if you can go there and think, these are all the things that refugees need. And thank you so much for the introduction. Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services has been resettling refugees in the United States for 84 years. And so we have a lot of experience doing this, but the needs are very overwhelming for just one family. And then if you add the thousands and thousands of people who are seeking refuge, it can get overwhelming. Let me just say that. And so the volunteering, the donations, the time that people in the community may give or offer is invaluable. I just can't begin to express. So this story I gave you is actually not much of a stretch, because this is exactly what happened last year in Kabul. As you guys all know or are aware, there was a man who worked at the U.S. Embassy. He was an IT guy. He spoke English. His family did not. And because he managed IT for the embassy, as the Taliban came closer and closer, one night or afternoon, he got a call from the contractor, whoever was in charge of the IT at the embassy, and they said, hey, get your hard drives, get your computers, smash your hard drives, get rid of all the information on them, and then get your family and get a backpack packed. And so he did that, and they said, wait for us. And so they went to their house, they waited till 1 a.m., and then they got a call, they were told where to meet, and they got put on an airplane, and they got sent to actually Virginia, where they waited in Virginia for 5 months until four months, until they got the call that they were going to come to South Carolina. And our office opened in January 1st. We've been doing this in South Carolina for a long time, but this office opened January 1st. And when originally it was contracted to open, we were supposed to have 100 refugees resettled in a year. But because of this thing that happened with Afghanistan in Kabul, they asked us to do resettle 100 refugees in 5 weeks. Yeah, it was fun times. And we were all brand new. Office, we didn't have a printer until the end of January. I mean, it was chaotic. But the thing that made it possible is what you guys did. So this family, his name's Mustafa, he's got 6 kids, and last year you donated, and he and his family were the ones who were the recipients of the donations. And as a person trying to do this monumental task, I'm sure it meant a lot to him, but it meant even more to me, to see the community coming together, people who had already been prepared, people who wanted to do it to love and serve their neighbor. And so he came on Tuesday, and he had 6 kids. They're doing great now. They all are speaking English and going to school and everything. But on Tuesday, he was supposed to come on Tuesday. On Thursday, before that, I got an email at like 10 at night from the national organization, and she said, hey, by the way, we just found out he has a brother. Can he come too? And I said, you know what? He can, because we are ready because of the generous donations of those in our community, specifically you guys. That's where all of your stuff, donations went to. So he's got the brother and 4 kids, and they're happy as little clams. They're doing great. As far as moving forward, so we thought things were going to calm down. They didn't, because then we had the Ukrainian crisis, and we have a large Ukrainian population in the upstate. So I didn't give Alice this update, but as far as the donations you give today, we haven't decided. It will either go to a Ukrainian family, or we just got assigned another family from Syria. They worked with the military, the dad did. They've got 7 kids, and a grandpa and a sister or an aunt with spina bifida who is wheelchair bound. And so somebody who has a lot of needs, and that's probably what we'll end up doing. But again, there was a great religious leader named Spencer Kimball, and he once said, God does notice us, and he answers our prayers, but it is usually through others that he meets our needs. And so it is vital that we serve each other in the kingdom of God. And again, my great thanks for all of you for your service and your love and your dedication to him. Thank you.
It came upon the midnight clear, the glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth to all goodwill, from heaven the news we bring. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. Still through the cloven skies they come, with peaceful wings unfurled, and still their heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Above its sad and lonely plains they bend on hovering wing, and ever o'er its babel sounds the blessed angels sing. But with the woes of war and strife the world has suffered long, beneath the angel strain have rolled 2,000 years of wrong, and we who fight the wars hear not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise of battle strife, and hear the angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophet bards foretold, when with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world give back the song which now the angels
Join me in silence. Who we most are. A Buddhist, a Jew, and a Christian sat down to have a conversation. The Jew is a very famous editor and author, publisher, known for drawing out the wisdom of global leaders, global figures, to share their knowledge with the world. And this writer, Douglas Abrams, turned to the Buddhist, the Dalai Lama, and said, "Your Holiness, many people wonder about how you can have happiness in life because you're a monk. And as a monk, you've taken vows to forego many pleasures, food, enjoyment." And the Dalai Lama leaned in, cutting off the interviewer, and said, "And sex!" The Christian, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who was sitting next to the Dalai Lama, turned startled to the Dalai Lama and said, "What?" And the Dalai Lama, without missing a beat, said, "Sex, sex, 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 sex." Desmond Tutu said, "Did you really just say that?" What makes for joy in the world? What makes for happiness? You know, if we catch that funny little mischievous joke pulled by the Dalai Lama on not just the interviewer and the Archbishop, but on all of us, and look at it closely, we can see that this man who has foregone many of the things that our society and our culture and our biology tell us will make us really happy if we can just have them. Sex! That he still finds joy. That in the paradox of letting go of this thing that advertisers around the world make billions of dollars selling to us, he still can give us all the joy of laughter and the connection that it brings. Now, please don't leave here today and think that I'm against sex. I have 2 kids and a happy life, and I'm definitively not against sex. You can stop your imaginations right now. We live lives, discerning our lives the best we can. There's a way in which the paradox of our lives can give us a richness, a beauty, a meaning, and a power, and just laughter, just joy. rather than when we chase someone else's idea of what makes life good. There's a book that I want to share with you. It's a book about systemic racism. It's about colonial genocidal violence. It's about profound and enduring systems of poverty. It's about ideological military occupation, exile. It is about murder. It's a book that includes a story of a man who was kept in solitary confinement for 30 years for a murder that he did not commit. And when he was incarcerated, the officers in the southern state where he was arrested told him he was being arrested because he was a black man. It's a book of every possible injustice and act of violence, abuse we know too well in our own lives and that we can imagine. And it is called the Book of Joy. It doesn't sound like a very happy book. This book, by two men who have known immense suffering in their lives, and beyond their own suffering, have tried to lead their people and anyone who would listen in the world to navigate a life through that suffering, is a book not only about tragedy in life, and there's a lot of it in this, but also about the beauty of life that can be wrung from what is very worst. I share with you often this idea that spiritual truth lies in paradox. And this is a book of paradox. It's a book that says, when we turn to face what is hardest in life, what is worst and most intractable, whatever our philosophies and spiritualities, whatever our professions and different commitments, when we just turn to face that which we dread with basic human courage, we find their possibility and connection, community, and even the possibility of joy. This is a book of two foolish 80-year-old men cracking each other up, talking about some of the hardest things on the face of our earth and in our lives. In this book, Desmond Tutu makes a claim that I find difficult to believe. It's an idea that underlies the work of both of these men. And what he says is, we were made for joy. Human beings were made for joy. He doesn't mean this as a way to cover over what's hard in life. He doesn't mean it as a way to fake our way through. He means it as something to discover, and not in an easy way, but in a way that he thinks is very possible, very real. I heard him say that, and I thought of someone very close to me, someone that I love very dearly. It's a person who has lost a lot in their life at the hands of people who should have treated them with love and kindness, but did not. You can imagine people you know who have experienced that in life. Yourself. People you care about. What happened in that person's life often comes back to them, and despite lots of work, lots of thinking, lots of study, lots of therapy and reflection, when things start to go badly, they find themselves plummeting down into themselves. A spiral that descends into darkness. And it is hard. Hard to watch them experience this. Sometimes hard to stay with them in it because it gets so dark and goes so deep. But there is a strange thing that happens in the life of this person. I can't say that it happens in every life. But when Desmond Tutu said, "We are made for joy," and I thought of this person that I love, I thought of how they descend into that darkness. Real and true darkness, coming from real and true experience. And yet there is a point at which, when they seem ready to hit bottom, that they push back. That they will make a joke about the people that cause them pain. That they will say, "Screw this," and step outside to take a walk. They will reach out to the people who care about them and say, "I need for you to show me that you care about me now." Something that they do that causes them to bounce off the bottom and come back to the top. Hard. Not easy. Hard won. But there is something in them that is deeper than all of that darkness. Deeper than all that happened to them. A joy so deep, it's a resiliency that pushes them back into the fullness of their life. We're going to talk about this book all month. And we're going to talk about it because my father asked me to. You should not always do what your dad tells you to do. Seriously, you should not. I make it a spiritual practice not to do what my dad tells me to do sometimes. A year ago, my dad became very sick. He's 78. He has many chronic conditions. And if he doesn't keep them balanced, he will spiral into a darkness. And there's no guarantee that he will bounce back from that bottom. Last fall, we thought he was going to die 3 times. And so, in his very unique fatherly way, when he survived the 3rd time, he said, "You know, I'd really like for you to preach a series of sermons on this book, the Book of Joy." And so I said to him, "Okay, I'll do that. But I'm going to set it for a year from now, so you've got to live that long if you want to hear it." And he has. He's probably listening right now if he hasn't turned it off yet. But my dad is sick. And there's a lot that's not going to get better for him. And he knows that. And my dad is a wonderful man. He has been a good pastor, not like those 2 bishops I told you about at the start, right? More like the acolyte. He's been a wonderful pastor. And against all odds, he's been a good father. He's been a good man. And he's learned a lot in his life. He has a lot of wisdom. But that doesn't make him immune to all the things that the rest of us experience. Part of the beauty of this book is that we see both the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu making mistakes and speaking out of the biases of their generation and teasing each other relentlessly to show each other's human foibles. And that's true for my father too. He's a wise man who makes a lot of mistakes and just doesn't get it all right. And as he has faced his illness, this man who spent decades as a pastoral counselor for dozens and dozens and hundreds and maybe thousands of people has found himself struggling with anxiety. I mean, it makes sense. He's going to die. Think about your own death for a minute and see if you don't feel your blood pressure rise just a little, right? That's your heart telling you, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, right? He feels anxiety. And Archbishop Tutu says the same thing. In this book, Archbishop Tutu has a recurrence of prostate cancer, from which he does eventually die. And he says in it, I feel anxious when I think about my death. So my dad's in good company. One day I picked my dad up from dialysis, brought him back home. And I helped him in the house. And he sat down at a little table in the middle of his kitchen. And my mom, whose age I won't tell you, but who's 1 month younger than my dad, she sat down across the table from him. And I said, "You all good? You got everything you need?" And my dad started to hyperventilate. His breathing picked up audibly. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "That's a lie." I said, "Dad, what can you do when you feel anxious?" He didn't answer me verbally. He did like this. His breathing calmed. And my mom, with a twinkle in her eye, leaned over the table and said, "How you feeling, boyfriend?" And if we just catch that story and look at it, we can see we're all just nothing and everything. We all have darkness and suffering in our lives to varying degrees. And it's a good human response to feel anxious and afraid and dread, stress. And it's a good human response to just breathe. To have somebody beside us who can say, "Remember to breathe." To have somebody that we really love lean across the table and say, "Sex, sex, 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 sex."
Please stand as you're willing and able and join me on hymn number 238 in your gray hymnal. Within the shining of a star, we catch a glimpse of who we are. In every infant born we see the hope of our humanity, the miracle of each new birth can shake and save the stony earth. Triumphantly the newborn's cry strikes echoes from the waiting sky.
As we extinguish our chalice, hear the words of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu with Douglas Abrams. No dark fate determines our future. We do. each day and each moment, we are able to create and recreate our lives and the very quality of human life on our planet. This is the power we yield.
It's a great song written in collaboration with Ladysmith Black Mambosa, a singing group from South Africa, a few years ago, during the time of the apartheid struggle. In fact, for these singers to sing together was to break the law of apartheid. There's a girl in New York City who calls herself the human trampoline. And sometimes when I'm falling, flying, tumbling in turmoil, I say, whoa, this is what she means. She means we're bouncing into Graceland,